10,000 people are screaming and the umpire cannot make them stop. Not once, not twice. Over and over, he raises his hand and the noise just swallows it whole. This is not a final. This is not a grand slam. This is a Wednesday night, a second-round match, a player seated 25th walking out onto a court in Toronto. And somehow, every seat in that stadium sold out in 30 minutes. 30 minutes. Before you keep watching, I need you to sit with that number. Because in a second, I'm going to tell you what that same player's life looked like exactly 1 year earlier. In this exact city, on this exact court, and it is going to make your stomach drop. Because 12 months ago, Alex played her first match here. She lost it. She packed her bag. Nobody was waiting outside. There was no flag in the crowd, no chant, no wall of noise. There was just a quiet exit through a side door, the kind every unranked, unnoticed athlete makes 100 times before anyone learns their name. So what happened in those 12 months? What turns a girl nobody waited for into a girl 10,000 people fight to see? I promise you, the answer is not what the highlight reels are showing you. It starts earlier than Toronto. It starts on a night in January when Alex won a set without losing a single game, and still walked off that court a loser. Stay with me, because this story has a shape to it, and once you see the shape, you will never watch her play the same way again. Picture a 9-year-old in Manila deciding she wants to be a tennis player, in a country where that sentence doesn't really make sense. Basketball is the national religion there. Boxing is inheritance. Volleyball owns the school gymnasiums. Tennis sits somewhere near the bottom of a very long list, in a nation of over 100 million people that had never, not once, not ever, produced a single WTA champion. No path, no blueprint, no proof that it was even possible. Just a kid with a racket and a feeling. At 13 years old, that kid got on a plane alone. Not to a tournament, to an academy on an island in the Mediterranean, thousands of miles from her mother's kitchen, her own bed, her own language. 13. Think about what you were doing at 13. She was learning to live without the people who raised her, chasing something her entire country had never once achieved. And here's the detail almost nobody talks about. Her family knew exactly what that cost, because they'd already lived a version of it. Her mother had once stood on a podium as a competitive swimmer. Her father built a career in business. Her brother had already spent years chasing his own version of this dream on a tennis court in America. This was not a family stumbling into sacrifice by accident. This was a family that understood with total clarity how many gifted kids from their country get close to something big and then quietly disappear because the money runs out, or the system was never built, or the world simply stopped watching. They sent her anyway. And somewhere in that decision is the real reason 10,000 strangers packed a stadium a decade later, but we are not there yet. Not close. Because for years, it looked like all of it might not be enough. Rewind to January of this year, the Australian Open, her very first appearance in a Grand Slam main draw. Back in the Philippines, it's the middle of the night and nobody cares. Families are crowded around one glowing phone screen. Office workers have a stream open in a hidden tab. An entire nation is awake at an hour it should not be awake. Because for the first time, one of their own is playing on the biggest stage the sport has. The opponent is an American with a huge serve and a habit of either destroying opponents or destroying herself. First set, Alex wins it without losing a single game. Read that again. A set win with a 0 next to the other player's name is, in professional tennis, close to a guarantee. The match is basically decided. People back home are already texting each other in celebration. And then something breaks, quietly at first. Then completely. She loses the second set. Then the third. The match that looked finished in the first 20 minutes ends in defeat. First round. Suitcase packed. Flight home. 12 straight games of dominant tennis, followed by 15 of the next 21 lost. Not to a legend. Not on a terrible day. On the biggest stage of her career, with the finish line already in sight. And that is the moment the question starts following her everywhere, quietly, like a shadow nobody mentions out loud. How do you keep believing in yourself when you've already proven you can beat anyone, and still cannot finish? Because it happens again. And again. 2 months later, a hard-court demolition against a rising player exactly her own age. A set lost without winning a single game. Weeks after that, a semi-final on grass, the best tennis of her season, and there's that same opponent waiting on the other side of the net again. Gone in straight sets. 2 meetings, 2 losses, same shape, same ending. And when people started digging into her record against players from that country specifically, the picture got uglier. 1 win against 13 losses. Not a rough patch. A pattern. And a pattern is the most dangerous word in sports, because once people start seeing a pattern, they stop calling it bad luck and start calling it a ceiling. Now picture the noise around her at this exact moment. Because months earlier, out of nowhere, she'd torn through a tournament in Miami and reached a semi-final that made her a household name overnight. Brands wanted her. Cameras followed her. Back home, she went from athlete to national symbol in about 10 days flat. Which meant, by the time all these losses started stacking up, she wasn't just a promising young player having a rough stretch. She was famous. Really famous. Which is when the phrase starts appearing in every article, every broadcast, every hallway conversation among tennis insiders. Flash in the pan. A name everyone knows attached to a trophy case that stays completely, permanently empty. 0 career titles, not 1. And it wasn't only her trophy case that was empty. It was her entire country's. Since the WTA Tour began decades ago, not a single player, man or woman, from the Philippines had ever won a title at that level. Every time Alex got close, she wasn't just carrying her own career up that hill. She was carrying 115 million people who had never once gotten to watch this happen. That is not pressure. Pressure is temporary. This was something heavier, closer to debt. And here's what almost nobody says about that kind of weight. It doesn't show up as fear. It shows up exactly the way it showed up for her. As a player who could hang with the best in the world for a set, sometimes 2, and then, right as the finish line came into view, something in the machinery would slip. If you had walked into a room of tennis analysts in early summer and told them that within 2 months this same player would be selling out a 10,000-seat stadium as a champion, they would have laughed you out of the room politely. And then Wimbledon happened. Center court. If you've never stood there, it's smaller than television makes it look, and heavier. The grass is cut down to 8 millimeters. 14,000 people go almost completely silent between points. It has hosted legends for over a century, and it does not care who you are. Waiting across the net, the defending champion, a former world number 1, a frontrunner who does not hand back a lead once she has it. Alex had never in her career made it past the second round of a Grand Slam. Nobody, and I mean nobody, gave her a real chance. The first set would not end. Serve held again, into a tiebreak that simply refused to finish. Set point saved. Then another. The tiebreak stretched past the normal finish line, past 7 points, past 9, into territory that only happens when neither player will let go. It finally ended 11 points to 9, in her favor. Second set, 6 games to 2. The defending Wimbledon champion gone. First player from her country in history to reach the second week of a Grand Slam. And if you think that's the headline, you are still missing the actual story, because she had beaten great players before. She'd beaten an Olympic champion. She'd beaten top 10 opponents multiple times over the past year. Talent was never the missing piece. What was missing? The thing that had haunted her through Melbourne, through that hard court blowout, through that grass court semifinal collapse, was the ability to keep her foot down once the win came into view. This time, up in a tiebreak that kept refusing to end, feeling the entire match tighten around her throat, she did not let go. She did not survive that lead. She extended it. And that, not the upset, the finish, is the exact moment everything changes. Because here's the thing about learning how to close. Once you learn it, it doesn't show up once. It shows up everywhere immediately like a switch flipping. 1 week later in Washington, she doesn't just win a tournament, she dismantles the entire draw. An Olympic gold medalist in round 1. The defending champion after that. A top seed next, beaten by the exact same score she'd lost by months earlier. except now it's her name on the winning side. Then a 4-time Grand Slam champion in the semifinal. 4 matches, 4 names you'd recognize anywhere, and she walks through all of them like they were nothing. Then the final. World number 3 on the other side of the net. And the old pattern tries one more time to reassert itself. She drops the first set. Rain interrupts the match with her opponent leading and building momentum in the second. Play is suspended. She has to go back to a hotel room alone overnight with the biggest match of her life sitting half lost, unfinished, waiting for Monday. This is the exact situation that used to break her completely. She comes back and wins the last set 6-0. First tour-level title of her career. First one ever for her entire country. Not just a milestone. History, decades in the making, decided in a single afternoon. And then less than 24 hours later, she gets on a plane to Toronto. This is where we came in. This is the part I need you to really feel. Because the moment the tournament announced her second-round match time, tickets vanished in half an hour. 10,000 seats for a 25th seed in a second-round match. The man who runs that tournament, someone who has watched this sport up close for years, said flatly that he has never seen a player ranked outside the top 5 create an effect like that. Ever. And on the night itself, the stadium doesn't just fill, it becomes something closer to a party than a tennis match. Flags everywhere, chanting between points. The umpire pleading, again and again, for quiet that never quite comes. She wins it in 3 sets, closing the match by winning the final 4 games in a row, against the same opponent who had beaten her in Melbourne back in January. Full circle, except this time she's the one who finishes. When it's over, she doesn't walk straight to the locker room. She turns to the crowd. She asks them in her own language to raise their flags so she can actually see them. She tells them how much it means, how every single week she feels this same wave of people who've never met her showing up like family. And here's the sentence that no broadcast has said out loud, but it's the whole story. That crowd isn't a side effect of her rise. It's the engine of it. Because think about what a sellout in 30 minutes actually does. It forces every tournament from now on to put her on the biggest court, in the loudest time slot, under the brightest lights, every single week, whether she's ranked to deserve it or not. Most players spend 5 or 6 years working their way up to that kind of pressure gradually, one step at a time. She got dropped into the deep end of it before she'd even won her first title, and she's been swimming in it every week since. And remember what her one real weakness always was. Not power, not talent, closing. Handling the exact moment when victory becomes visible and the walls start closing in. Her own fans, without meaning to, have been training that weakness out of her at full volume every single match, ever since Wimbledon. The crowd isn't just cheering. The crowd is coaching, which is the real answer to the question we started with. Why was that umpire in Toronto begging 10,000 people to be quiet? Because for the first time in the history of this sport, they finally had someone worth being loud for. There are millions of people from her country scattered across the world right now. Nurses working night shifts on the other side of the planet. Engineers, caregivers, families who left everything they knew to build a life somewhere unfamiliar. Every one of those cities was a stadium waiting to be switched on. Nobody had ever turned the lights on before. She didn't build that audience from nothing. She unlocked something that was already there, sitting quietly, waiting for a reason to show up. And you cannot buy that with any marketing budget on earth, because you cannot manufacture 10 million people who already feel like they know you personally. So what happens next? Because the schedule ahead is brutal, an unseeded opponent who just produced the tournament's biggest upset. Behind her, a path that could lead through some of the biggest names left in the draw. A doubles match alongside a legend of the sport that still feels almost unreal to say out loud. And 3 weeks from now, New York. The loudest crowd tennis has to offer. In a city packed with more of her people than almost anywhere else in the world, walking in as a player who has finally, completely learned how to finish. If 10,000 people showed up on a random Wednesday for a second-round match in Toronto, what exactly is waiting for her in a stadium that seats 4 times that many? Nobody knows yet. Not one person. But we are all about to find out in real time together. And whatever happens, it will not look anything like the 30-second clip you saw scroll past on your feed. It never does. It never does.